share my screen. And there we go. So welcome to Chat and Learn. This is an ambassador edition for Power to Fly. I'm Linda, and I'll be your host for this chat. So a few housekeeping rules. Please, if you have any Q&A, if you have any questions, we have a Q&A section that you can drop your questions there, and we can gather all the questions to answer through the end. You can send a direct message to me if you want, if you would like to remain private or anonymous. So as I said, this is going to be recorded, so there's no rush of keeping notes. You can rewatch it afterwards. I'm going to send you all an email with the video of this event. So you can always comment. What I'm trying to do here is to make this event more conversational. We can all like be in the same room, even like virtually, and have a great event and a conversation with Cordula. So who am I? I am an ambassador at Power to Fly. I'm also a remote community manager, and I am a minimalist. I host these virtual events for Power to Fly, and I am trying to bring as much value as I can to this community. Therefore, today, as a guest, we have Cordula. She can tell us a little bit about herself. Cordula?
Oh, yes. I wasn't 100% prepared. I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. It's so interesting when you send in your bio.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of my presentation, I made it a bit more conversational, as you said. But if it comes to what you've presented here on the slides, then in terms of my professional life, I work for a company called Future Females. And I can basically start to share my slides with you if we are already kick-starting.
Of course.
I wanted to say welcome to everyone who's just jumping on. You are in the right place if you want to hear about how to build communities from scratch, the tools and the strategies that you can use. And I know that we also, from our events with Future Females, I know that people are dropping in not always on time, so people will come in the next 5 minutes or so, and then don't want them to miss the start. So that's why I'm doing a little bit of a improv for everyone. But I'm particularly excited that people are joining from different places all over. I saw earlier Paris and Lisbon and the United States, New Jersey, and that's quite exciting. I know it from our events at Future Females, we really love to see all these different cities. Something that we couldn't do before the pandemic was to be in a room or in an event with all these different time zones and with people from all over. So I really appreciate that you all took the time from different places to come for this topic of community and community-based businesses. Okay, so then let me share my screen, and I will try and still make up some time so that people can still roll in while I do a little bit of talking in the beginning. Okay, let's go here. Let me know in the chat if there is any questions, comments, problems, you can't hear anything. But this is basically the topic of today. We're going to talk about tools and platforms you can use to build a community from scratch, and also to build community-based businesses. So this is in the end what community also can do, is be the driver or the foundation of a business, or the other way around. You can build a business and therefore then with this solution you are providing or the problem you're solving, create a community. So I'm going to give you a bit of a roundup of what I'm going to talk about and what I'm going to cover. First, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. We had a little bit of an intro already by Linda. I'm going to try and make it a bit more personal, so you also get a feeling of who I am behind what my professional stance and what I do. Then I'm going to talk about building a community-based business from scratch on the example of Future Females, how kind of we did it and how I can tell you from our story. Then I want to share some top community strategies. So strategies that you can work with if you want to really be community focused. And then some tools to utilize to facilitate these kind of communities. And that will also be the tools that are trending or getting quite a big of momentum now in 2021. So my name is Cordula. As I said, I'm Austrian originally. I have spent out of the last year here in the Netherlands, but before that, I used to live in South Africa, in Cape Town. I come from a psychology background. That's what I studied, and then moved into marketing and became a quite passionate marketer. I specialize in growth marketing, social media marketing, and then also to make it a bit more personal so that you can remember, okay, that was the lady who liked croissants. I also really have a bit of a thing for any kind of podcasts, really love podcasts. Topic close to my heart also is financial literacy. And as an Austrian, obviously really love Austrian pastry. So that's, I think, maybe some other things apart from my work that you should know about me. But I also manage the growth for a company called Future Females, and we will talk more about that. And I also am an advisor for a company called Satgana. I advise on brand and social media for this company, and you're going to hear a little bit about what the company does later on as well. And then another big thing, and maybe one of the reasons why I'm here talking to you about community, is because I really have a passion or an interest or I'm an advocate of bringing people together. I have looked into my past years, and there was always a little bit of a underlying thread that spoke to this. So I used to organize parties to raise money for social causes in Cape Town, South Africa, with two other amazing people. I used to run Petra Kucha. Some of you might notice it's a speaker series that happens in a lot of cities across the world. I used to run the Cape Town edition with a team there for almost 2 years. And I also put together a team of creative people to run a crowdfunding campaign to create a skate park also close to Cape Town in South Africa. So I found that whatever I was doing there in the past, I was trying to put people together in a place or a room. Now, in this pandemic where we find ourselves, I do this mostly virtually. And with the company I work for, with Future Females, we also at the moment do this mostly online, but we do still, and we used to do this also quite a lot physically. So this is a lot about myself, give you a bit of an idea why I'm here to talk to you about this big thing of community. But the first story I want to start with today is the story of a community-based business. So I think why most of you are here today is because you want to learn about how you can build community, nurture it, the tools around it. And I'm going to tell you the story first, how one specific community-based business came about. So what you can see here is a picture from a tech accelerator program in 2017. The lovely two ladies in the middle that stand to the left and to the right of the guy with the long hair in the middle are our co-founders, Lauren and Serena. They are the co-founders of the company I work for, Future Females. And this is a picture taken at an occasion where they met. They were facilitating and working on a textile program in 2017 in Cape Town, South Africa. So with a cohort of potential founders that was chosen to get into this accelerator program, they were facilitating and helping and managing this cohort. And what they found in context of that was that not a single founder in this whole program that was facilitated by Texas was a woman, was a female. So they thought to themselves, okay, this is something we cannot really live with. Why is there no female founders in this cohort? And is this something that needs a sudden change? So in this moment that they had this kind of found this problem, they also wanted to give this problem a solution. And their first solution was to create a space, create an organization, create kind of an umbrella company to facilitate a space for female entrepreneurs to connect, to get inspired, to have a networking opportunity. And that was, I think, at first the big idea and the moment of the inception of this future females, but also of this community-based business. So they got together and started, now it's almost 4 years ago soon, started the company under the name of Future Females with this big idea to increase the number and success of female entrepreneurs globally. So first there was the idea, and first also there was this statement, this big bold statement, and then only later and a little bit with time came, how are we going to do this? How are we actually going to address this? The first solution was the easiest, as it sometimes is in the startup journey. It's like, what can you do now immediately without having to build up 6 to 9 months? They created an event and let all the women that wanted to attend come together, create a space where there was 2 speakers, access to resources, access to networking, and just hosted this event as a first thing under the name of Future Females. What they very quickly realized is that this company will be one that focuses on the needs of the community. And so one important thing for them in the very beginning was to, before actually designing a lot of the things that came later on and that are now our core offerings, to state a couple of values. So they sat together and initially stated our first 4 core values that are still the same today, but we added 1 more, but back in the days it was 4. And it was community driven, give first, collaboration, and inclusive. They chose these bold words, and obviously now by looking at them, you can see that one already has the word community in it. They also made a quite strong statement. They decided from the inception of this company, there will always be a company that really is based on what the community says, what the community wants. And so it happened that the first event started, and they soon realized there was a real need, especially in South Africa, in the space, in the ecosystem, for this community and for a network that was creating change in this particular aspect. So they then found themselves not only with a lot of people wanting to hear more, but also with a lot of choices to make. When you're very early on, you're kind of building this community. Your first idea is, okay, we're going to host events. So for now, it was an event-based company. But very much still with this idea of giving the community a voice from the beginning. So a couple of things that now in retrospect happened there in the very first phase of Future Females, where very early on there was found a way to give the audience, so the people that were coming to the events, the people that were engaging, people online that were engaging with the content early on, to give them a voice. Another thing that happened was that in our case, or with our 2 co-founders, they always had this amazing ability to think big and also kind of allow other people to think big with them and give them ownership over things, not be too stingy or occupying with just you being the creator. They had this openness towards people could come in and also contribute. And then also from day one, they wanted to create a forum rather than a one-sided communication. So these were the things that now, when I look back at it, were probably there in the beginning and somehow then led to where we are today. And now when I reflected on it, I obviously thought, okay, this is somehow what happened, and I wanted to see how can we nail this down to certain things that happen at the beginning when you do build around a community, instead of coming with product first or coming with like the solution first and then only think about these things. So how did this look in practice? I can show you. So the reason how we actually designed our first events was a co-creation experiment, let's say it. The first 2 events, we asked the people that attended what were the problems that they were most facing with, what were women most struggling with, what were the things they needed to resources on, which areas should we cover. And we had them pin it to a wall, actually, and then evaluated the results. And that's how our first themes for the whole year, our first year in business and our first year of online and offline events, how these four main pillars came together. So money, relationship, energy, and time came out as being the overarching themes for inspiring female entrepreneurs out there. So that was already a co-creation process right there. And it went even further. So since we were hosting with a very small team events in Cape Town, we didn't have the resources to go into other places. We were basically just all side hustling this, doing the events once a month in Cape Town, but knowing that this movement could go much further, we decided, and this was also coming mainly from the top-down decision from our two co-founders, that they want to give everyone the opportunity to host Future Females events in their city. So the fact that they gave up ownership and let other women take this Future Females narrative and take this event concept that was to inspire female entrepreneurs and create a space for them into other cities, that really helped so that other cities picked up this concept quite quickly. Within our first 5 months of existing, we already had 5 cities running Future Females events. There was another one in Africa, and then 3 more in Europe. So this is something that's also quite unique, because if you would be quite tight with your structures and your restrictions, then you wouldn't necessarily allow some women, some strangers, or people that you've just met to also do these events for you or host on the basis of your brand. In our case, it went well for us. We were able to scale much faster. And then lastly, another maybe statement or sentiment, more testament to the community focus, was that from the very beginning we wanted a communication channel, a social channel, where our members, so people that were interested in the movement, in the resources, and in the events, were able to connect with each other, not just with us. So for us, it was important that this would be an interactive communication. So we chose a Facebook group. That was back in 2017, the best way to operate a group and facilitate a group. All of our community members had access to Facebook. It was an easy way in. So this was our first very strong channel. As opposed to when you these days see brands hosting on Instagram or Twitter, YouTube, these are more one-sided communication channels. So you are broadcasting content and people can engage with it on basis on a like, but they can't really interact with each other. So you are a bit limited there when you're just using these kind of channels. So this is a little bit about the story, how we've started. Fast forward, there's a lot has happened. Future Female is now almost 4 years old, soon to be. And I'm going to just quickly explain what we do now, what this whole narrative has evolved to now. So we still host events, offline and online. We're now hosting in 28 cities in the world in 4 different languages, in 20 different countries. So that's quite exciting. We went from this first inception phase of 5 to actually having launched over 40 and now have about 30 active. We also have created an online business school. So our way of addressing the problem with female entrepreneurs getting into business, getting into that first stage. We have a program now, a 10 weeks accelerator that has graduated over 1,000 people, 1,000 women. We have a founders club, an online community for female founders. And obviously, lastly, we still, to this day, and that's also how we started, do a lot of content. So blogs, challenges, summits, lives, and interviews. So this is a little bit of how our journey started, but we are just not out there the only community-focused business. It is actually becoming quite a buzzword to be community-based, to be community-centric. I recently read this article about community washing being the new greenwashing. A lot of brands these days use the word to have a positive to invoke a positive sentiment. But the question remains, is there really a community focus? Is it really just nice to say, okay, we are a community that stands behind the product, or is there really something underlying that, a foundation for all of these things? So that's why I want you to do a little thought exercise and think of a community-focused or based business that comes into mind. I would love to hear, and you can put it in the chat, because you don't need to reason why, or we can discuss about that at the end and see, but just whatever comes to mind, even if you're not sure if it is actually community focused, I would just love to hear, because then we can also go through the next process with that in mind and thinking, okay, is this company really doing it, or are they just kind of throwing that out there as a buzzword? Okay, I'll give you a little bit of time so you can.
Thank you so much, Cordula, for sharing all the journey of Future Female. It is indeed very inspiring, and it's amazing how you started from only a group of people and you expanded in 5 different cities, and how you say about the meaning of community. Yes, sometimes it is a buzzword, and I love that the way that you're going deeper. And so you guys think about the communities that you like the most, and people that you felt belonging, and you felt that you had support in your communities, and it was not only marketing to create loyalty, but was also including people and people focus.
I see a lot of great. I see a lot of great ones in the chat. So, ladies at UX, Techstars. I spoke about them in the program. Chefs that Farm, never heard about them, but definitely going to look it up. Ladies Get Paid, Spanx. Okay. So I think I wanted you to think a little bit about it so that we can now look at some of the strategies I'm going to tell you about. And these are some strategies that obviously not all need to be fulfilled, but if you're really wanting to be known as a community-based business and community-centric, then maybe this is some good ones to bear in mind. And you can ask yourself, with all the ones that you've named, is this something that they're already doing, or is there maybe room for improvement? So that's why I think we can go back to this one slide. Let me just share again. I just wanted to see the chat, so I was going out of my slides. Okay, so I let you think about this a bit longer, and we go on to the top community strategies, so that it's actually not just a buzzword. So the ones that I'm going to talk about, and this is obviously not exclusive, so these are not the only core ones, it's just the ones where I personally have some experience with, where I've seen companies work with this, and this is something that even you, if you start a small community, you can embrace one of them and kind of work with this strategy. So one is start from the heart, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that means, but it talks about to the core of your business and to the why. Another one is the element of co-creation. Is it available? Is this something that you can make affordable or like feasible for your community? And an open source policy. So these are some of the strategies that I personally have worked with. And now we're going to dive a bit deeper into them. So start from the heart. And I'm sure you can also now ask yourself, with the companies that you have chosen, is there a bigger why behind this company? So I've chosen 2 that I think have quite a strong start from the heart, strong why. And both are communities that I've personally also been, as a customer or as an in the audience, been a part of. So one is Creative Mornings. It's also an event series. So you will find that with community, a lot of the times it's connected with events. Not always, but it's just now per incident is us with Future Females. Now we're on this online event. Creative Mornings is also an event series. Started a while ago and is now in, I think, over 80 different cities in the world, lots of different countries, lots of different areas. And the idea is pretty simple. The founder of Creative Mornings decided she wanted a meeting space for creatives where everyone could attend. It would always be free. It would be one Friday a month, and it would always have a little breakfast. It would be in the morning. And all of the creative industry, no matter in which place, could come together for about an hour and also chat, listen to a speaker, share knowledge, network. And this kind of then blasted into this huge community that is completely driven by this narrative of just creating a space for creatives. And then the other one that I chose as a place, as an example, is also a company that is somewhat similar, a little bit similar to what we do, but they're called Women in Tech. And their big, hairy, audacious goal, as you will, is to really impact women in tech. So having more women in the workforce, having more diversity, addressing the gender equality SDG, so that more women are represented, especially in the STEM fields. They come from the place, a very, very important narrative that needs to be diversity in especially that field. And therefore they run programs, they run events. They also now in over, I think, 28 countries. And all of what they do is so they support these kind of women, and that there is more equality in tech, which a lot of us say and also know that tech is considered to be very relevant for us in the future. So creating the pathway for future women. And kind of this is where in both of these scenarios is like the underlying thread or the underlying narrative. And that's why people will also resonate with what it is that you're doing. So the first kind of strategy, start from the heart, start with, if you do already have a product or if you do already have your community, try to kind of find your one sentence or your one underlying belief or something that you all kind of share that really nails it and is very unique and just specific to your company, to your community. Then the second one is an element of co-creation. So I recently got on board to be an advisor on a company called Satgana that my friend Romain founded and started in September of last year. It is a global venture builder with a very important mission to fund companies, so very, very early stage startups that will address the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so in that sense, it has a really big goal. And it also speaks to a lot of different now audiences, right? It speaks to people that know there's importance in this work. It speaks to people that want to start a company. It speaks to investors that are in the future going to invest in these kind of companies, because obviously they all also need money investment in the first place. And what's even more important with the start, and also one of the main reasons why I'm so passionate about this particular project, is because it really gave this opportunity of co-creation from the start. So how Satgana actually came together, it was founded by one initial guy, a founder in the beginning, but very much a project of co-creation. So from the beginning, it was open for people to give input. It was creating the team from scratch, and by like reaching out with the mission, the big, bold mission statement, finding the right people, by putting out the statement and by putting out the whole narrative of it, hoping to bring the right people on board. So very, very interesting structures that are not always seen, especially in the tech world, especially in the venture building or venture studio world, that there is an open collaboration, people coming in from the beginning, also on volunteering basis. Everyone just resonated so much with this important mission that he found himself surrounded with a lot of people chipping in and co-creating this launch and the company now as it exists now with him together. Also, what was very important with the team creation of Satgana was representation of different targeted countries. So also that the team would be diverse and it wouldn't just be one hierarchical structure. There's very transparent processes. So these kind of transparent processes are the ones that allow co-creation to happen, so that people also then know, okay, there is I can be part of this, and it's not being just decided top down above me. I can basically be part of the process of figuring out what the processes can look like. And then of course, the underlying bigger purpose, as I said, which is often the reason that attracts people in the first place, and then also sustains them or remains them within the company, within the community. So you do really need people that will resonate with that bigger purpose, and then you can find yourself in this great space, in this sweet space of creating as a community and for the community. Okay, and then lastly, one other strategy I want to talk about is the open source policy strategy. So here I'm maybe going a bit on a tangent, but there's a big thing out there that's currently allowing for a lot of open source, and that's the blockchain technology. So I didn't just want to put blockchain and future females on a slide, even though I think it looks great, but I kind of want to give this big example and then just give an example of how we've done it at Future Females in our small microcosmos as opposed to blockchain. But the blockchain technology at the moment currently allows for a lot of open source. Open source meaning people can use, in this case, technology and build on it and build their own kind of projects, build their own kind of blockchain technologies on it. It's available for everyone. In this case, available for someone who is able to work with the blockchain technology. So a lot of developers in this case. And it also will be very, very relevant for our future and holds a lot of opportunities, also some challenges. But in this case, I think it's a good example of something that now allows for many more things. I don't know if you've heard about smart contract or even financial things, transactions that now can go over the blockchain, for it to happen peer-to-peer. So to be in between the people without navigators, without mediators, without institutions between. So this is something that is a little bit of the definition of open source. But for whoever this is a bit too out there, I can also give you the example of how we kind of manage open source at Future Females. I've already mentioned we have an ambassador program. So we, from very early on, decided we want to be in as many cities as possible, but we only have limited amount of people that only work from 1 or 2 cities. So we want women to be able to take the concept of the events, to take the concept of community building and bring it to their city or their country. So we put a lot of resources, actually training and other things, into this program of ours that now has about 60+ women in it that are hosting the Future Females communities in their cities, and allowed us to be in that many countries also, which we would have never managed in 4 years, to be all over, from Asia to the Middle East to Europe to Africa. So for us, this was something that was not always easy, because you're also giving so much of your brand, so much ownership away. But it was very clear from the beginning we wanted to do this, and now we're also like seeing that it has actually worked over almost more than 3 years now, and we're trying to still grow it. So someone also mentioned Techstars earlier in the chat. There's similar programs or similar institutions out there. Women in Tech do also work with an ambassador schemes or an ambassador program, so that everyone can kind of take their narrative and bring it to the city or the country, the region where they think it's needed. And to create something like that is accessible, that also allows your other women, other community members to take it and make it their own and bring it to life in their own terms, is something super valuable. That is like very hard to put a price tag on it, and very hard also to kind of trying to replicate. So this is where a lot of brands have not reached this level of advocacy. They still claim, okay, we have a community, but sometimes this is the part where it can be a differentiator, could be a differentiator also for your community, to be able to let other people bring it out there. This might not be possible for all of your communities or companies. Maybe just think of it also in smaller ways. How can, if you're not running a program, how can someone still take a part of whatever it is you're creating or your community, and kind of also be active in it, or refer it to someone else, and all these kind of things. So I think one of the main things is that In our case, we gave the resources, and we're also happy to give the ownership. And we also not, and that I think is maybe important to say, it was not nothing that was financially motivated. So it was from our side, something that we from the very first day wanted to do, even though it didn't have a financial driver behind it. So that one you can also think about. I'm sure there is also communities that have totally monetized it and are making money off these kind of programs or when they run it. And we can discuss that also in just now. Before, I just want to give you some tools and some of the trends also that are coming in 2021 around tools you can use to build community. So kind of all of us now know, okay, there's Facebook groups. It was one of the first big things, and utilized also by us. Our Facebook group from the early days is still very active and has 15,000 members now. But there's a lot of new technology and new platforms coming in that I want you to be aware of and also think about when building community now in 2021. It will depend a lot where in the world you are. There's definitely a time and place for certain things. But the first one I want to talk about will be audio first platforms. So maybe some of you have heard about Clubhouse. Clubhouse is being really hyped, I think, since the beginning of this year. And I just want to, at this point, not even just favor Clubhouse, but I think it opened up the gateway for a lot of audio-based platforms that will now come. So Spotify is working on a similar product, Twitter is working on something, LinkedIn even is rumored to work on something similar to Clubhouse. So more and more of the already existing big players will jump on this and make it similar or bring out a similar product. Whoever who hasn't joined Clubhouse yet, I would recommend it. At the moment, you would still need an iPhone for it. But these are the top clubs on Clubhouse. So for the ones that haven't been on there yet, Clubhouse basically is an audio first app. So you will never see the people, you will just hear them. It is community driven in the sense that community members can start a club, and then you can be a member of the club or follow the club. And I just looked up at the moment, biggest clubs on Clubhouse. And you would be surprised. I also thought that in the top position would be cryptocurrency related ones, but it's actually human behavior. So the largest club on Clubhouse is one that is a bit science related with over almost 500,000 followers and about 25,000 members. So they distinguish between followers and members, and the members can co-create together. Within a club, you can host these events. Then everyone, the followers and the members, will get a notification. The same goes when you just by yourself. You can also just start a room. The clubs are just the bigger kind of encapsulated form of creating the community. But you obviously, as a creator, can also start your own community. So people following you and then getting notifications when you are hosting a room and want to talk about something. You can see what's trending on Clubhouse on here as well, startups. So that's a big topic, Bitcoin, tech talks, and also marketing secrets. So this just gives you a little bit of an idea, but who knows if the next Clubhouse app platform opens, maybe this will be different, maybe different kind of communities will jump on these platforms. In any case, it will stay quite exciting to follow this trend and see where it's going. Another trend definitely coming up is dedicated groups. So I spoke about us having a Facebook group, and I still have Facebook here. It will depend a lot where you are, but Facebook is seeing a bit of a decline. So depending on where your community usually sits, there's a lot of interesting new platforms that you could also test for your groups. I want to personally highlight Slack. Some of you might have worked with Slack in your workspace, but it is very, very user-friendly and very structured in a way, as you can see here on the right, that you can have specific channels. So you can structure the conversations within your community and have them centered around specific topics. So not everything is in one channel. The same goes for Discord. Maybe if someone is a passionate gamer, you will know Discord. But Discord also looks and feels a little bit similar Slack. And you can also kind of structure the content for your community so that they always find where they can post in different kind of genres. And Discord is very much used, as you can also maybe see a little bit from the logo, started its first pickup with the gaming industry. So a lot of people using Discord while they were on computer games. And then there's also Reddit. Reddit is its own little thing, I would say. There is a lot of subreddits, which you can almost see like a sub-thread that you can start and then also be the owner of that. But as opposed to the other two, it is also a big thing behind it, so everyone can access. With Slack and Discord, you can tailor it a lot more to your community. And then lastly, there is a new trend for messaging apps, and messaging apps are also quite useful for groups. So depending on the size of your community, you might want to, if you have a smaller size, you might want to use them, because then you don't need all of the structure. And there I just want to highlight two new ones that are becoming the new alternatives to WhatsApp. So WhatsApp has been around for really long. I'm sure a lot of you know it's part of Facebook, and therefore has a couple of data sensitive constraints. So WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram, very well known for using and selling all your data. And the new ones that have come into play now, Signal and Telegram, are safe on that side, especially Signal, as it's hosted as a non-for-profit. So they have declared also in their statement that it will never, that it will encrypt all of the chats and never save any of your data or sell it. So these are kind of the newcomers on 2021 side. A lot of groups that I'm personally on have now also wandered over and are now on Signal. I have, for instance, a money talks group on Signal now, where I just speak. Unfortunately, it's in German, but I speak with a couple of women I know about anything financial. So also let me know if you're German and if you want to jump on that group. We're having it on Signal. Yeah, and this is kind of the end of the tools I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek on. And I think lastly, before we go into some questions, hopefully I can see the chat again, and then I just wanted to show you our latest video. I know whenever I do kind of talks, then maybe there's some women on the event that also feel like, okay, maybe I want to start a community, but I don't have an idea which one yet, or I don't have this like my own specific need for community, but I know I want to do something. And especially women who are in entrepreneurship, we obviously would always love if you want to start Future Females in your city or in your country. That's why I want to show you, lastly, if it works, our last video, and then we can go over and chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That was an amazing presentation, Cordula.
I don't want to start it again.
It was actually very good. It deserved a second round. Thank you so much. That was a detailed approach to communities, and I would love now people to jump on camera on call, like on microphone, if you have any questions. Here in the chat, as I can read, Carly, she said that in Brazil they use the WhatsApp. Ines, huge fan of Slack, me too. And Anna says, is there anyone you can hire to be a social listener who's on all these platforms and is checking on the conversations in case you need to participate?
Okay, so interesting question. So I personally would also love someone who is a listener, who's checking on the platforms for us. And we haven't found the solution to this yet. I guess there will be an AI solution for this. But usually what I've learned with all these tools is that it helps when you have someone who really is a native, who is already on this platform. For instance, we want to use Clubhouse more now for Future Females to also host regular events and meetups on there. And we have basically been looking for someone who's already on the platform, who's already a big advocate for the platform. And then we want them to kind of host the events there. At the moment, we really, for almost all of these platforms, needs to find someone there who's native, who's really feeling passionate about it. Same goes for a lot of these new ones, someone on Reddit, or someone who is a TikTok native. You want them to be on there, being your kind of ear out there and creating for you. So the person needs to be between the platform and you, so kind of understanding what you want and understanding the platform, I think. So I think for community building, you as the community host, it would be great if you know where your community sits. So let's say if I'm in gaming, I'd be pretty sure that my community would love Discord, or would prefer something like more like Telegram and not Facebook. These kind of things. I probably have a little bit of a feeling what they would like. I think you're still on mute, Linda.
So we have another question from Romina. She says, how can I start a community if I don't have a big following yet?
Yeah, I don't think you need a big following to start a community. I think that's one of the beautiful things about the new platforms. So on YouTube, Instagram, partly on Facebook, we've been taught, and it's also kind of the case, that we need big following to actually move something. And on these new communities, if you jump in now, let's say if you were one of the early adopters on Clubhouse last year in autumn, then you had the chance to build there from zero. Everyone was on zero. There was no big influencers or creators. So, and I personally am a fan of smaller groups. So if you want to start a community today, why don't you start with a WhatsApp group, or with a group on LinkedIn, wherever you think your audience will be most comfortable. Then that's the easiest. My one friend also just started our Signal group with women that wanted to learn more about finance and investing. So I think that's the first kind of way to test the waters for you and see. And then this small WhatsApp group or small group you could grow into bigger and bigger. And then that's when you know, okay, now I'm turning this into a bit more of a structured business, community, anything.
As you said, for
Linda, you muted yourself.
Oh my God. Sorry, I apologize. So I was saying that, as you said, Cordula, start from the heart, start for what you love the most. It doesn't matter like not having a big following yet. That will come as long as we provide values to these communities. Another question from Karine is, I have a practical question. She says, what about the financial side of these communities? How or who finances them?
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to also go back to earlier we were talking about the communities. All the ones that were mentioned, funny enough, were for profits. So I also think it's often we think community, we think of a non-for-profit. A lot of people used to think that Future Females is a non-for-profit because we are serving this community purpose. In the end, we were always a for-profit, but it's a little bit of a bias. I think you're hearing these things and you're thinking, okay, there must be an NPO. But there is a lot of money also to be made with communities. So I think what's a good strategy is to have a free offering in the beginning, especially when you're building, not go straight into it with a paid version. And then from there, if it gets to a size where you think, okay, this could be something, have an approach that could be making you money as well, especially if it takes up all of your time. So we used to have free events at the beginning with Future Females, and then switched over and had paid events only when they were physical, because we decided that we're going to keep it affordable, but there also needs to be a value to it for us to plan better, but also for people to realize there's a value behind these tickets, and I'm committing to it and I'm going. And I think in your case, whatever you want to deliver, is it knowledge? Is there a program behind it? Maybe is there the connection? Are you basing it on the good connections you can make in the community? There's a lot of communities now on different platforms where you are paying. And an easy other transition into this paying model is maybe think about Patreon, which is gives people the chance to pay. So you can either make it compulsory, or you can also make it voluntary, so people can say, okay, this is actually worth something, I want to donate and I want to become a Patreon. This is the platform that allows that to then donate on a monthly basis if they're using your service or your community a lot. So both have seen very interesting models. Also, I think for community builders, creators, Patreon is a really, really nice platform that makes it easy for you to get payment for whatever it is you're offering.
Yeah, Patreon actually has grown rapidly lately. We have many fans of Clubhouse here, like Ines. She said that Clubhouse is much fun. It happens like I have just explored it. I was not aware of it. How she can get a Clubhouse? I think you need an invitation from that, right?
Yeah. So Clubhouse at the moment, maybe disclaimer, it is for iPhones still only. So if you have an Android at the moment, you unfortunately can't jump on. But if you do have someone with an iPhone, or you do have an iPhone, you will need an invite. But there is so many people are currently already on it that the invite often is not even necessary. Once you register, they will get a notification get sent out to all your contacts that are already on the platform, and then they can kind of wave you in. So if they just click wave, then you don't even need the invite. And that's a kind of sneaky way to get in, but it has worked for a lot of people, because lately, depending on where you're at, but in the US has the highest penetration of Clubhouse people. So if you have a lot of contacts in the US, chances are that someone that you know is already on there. So just register and see if you get waved in. And other than that, we also have a lot of invites at Future Female, so you can message us on one of our channels and we will get you an invite too.
Livia, she's sharing with us another community platform as well in the chat. You can always find the link here. But please feel free, if anybody has any other question, jump on camera, ask directly Cordula. People say that you had an amazing presentation, Cordula, and really enjoyed it. That he loved it. I loved it myself. It was great to see detailed analysis of the community strategies and the tools. I was not aware of the Telegram and the other platform, but it was, if anybody is like from speaking German, can join that platform as well. It is only German speaking communities there. You mentioned?
No, so all the platforms are for all the languages, so you can use Telegram and Signal whenever you. I just personally, I'm in the Signal group that you can also join if you're into finance and talks about investing in finance. But this one we're having is in German, so that's why I was saying not everyone in this one is. It's unfortunately a German one, because my friend started it and she's German. But I'm sure you can start your own. So whatever you want to do, if you want to do it on WhatsApp or if you want to do it on Signal, you could pick a topic, know that you know some of your friends or some of your extended friends are interested in, and you could start that group and see how it goes. Usually there is a natural flow of communication conversation. But sometimes also groups need moderation and guidelines, and you can set that. And that's a easy first testing for community building.
Great. We have Amin here. He asks, are these communities only for women?
No, so these communities are open for everyone. I would almost say that most of these new trends that I was speaking about, Telegram, Reddit, and Signal, the pickup is much quicker with men because they usually come, or more men work in tech. So now we're back at the heart, coming from heart from women in tech. But it is a fact, statistically speaking, so many more men work in tech and fulfill the positions that work with technology. So they pick up on these technologies faster than us women. And therefore, more communities actually at the moment live on these platforms that are dominated by men. A lot about finance in the crypto space. Also, they use a lot of these new platforms, and you as a man can find yours, and you as a woman can find, and there's lots where the gender doesn't matter, and you can just be part of it. So you will find that. Just type it in basically on all these different ones. For instance, on Clubhouse, it is easy because it has different categories. I think 8 different ones. So if you are interested in science, there's one. If you're interested in the arts, there's one around photography and art. You will find your communities there. On Telegram and Discord, it's a bit more tricky. Just the search isn't so much built out yet. But let's say you find a really cool website or community somewhere, then they will often link whenever they have a link also to their Discord or a link to their Telegram group or something.
At the Clubhouse and Discord, they have a great variety of interests. We have more questions. One from Annie. She said, what if your business is not about building a community, but you want to create a community of fans or customers? How might that be different?
Yeah, good question, Anne. So I think also there's obviously nothing bad about just having a business. Just this specific talk was about community focus, but there's so many companies out there that don't necessarily need a community focus. They're just solving a problem and that's fine, or they're just selling a product and that's completely fine. But if you now have a business and you want to create like this fan and customer base, then I think it is a similar approach, right? You are looking at what you're currently solving, what's the underlying factor. So example, if you are a yoga brand, so you will have to, obviously you have the community, this is all the people that do and engage in yoga, and you kind of want to now put them all together, bring them together under this narrative of yours. So you could do it over events, you could just do it in a group, you could have specific discounts, a club, which is only for the best fans. This is a lot of brand marketing as well. If you're doing it mainly to sell your product, then I think a lot of this was in the early days also of Nike. They did a lot about this community and the underlying, like, we are creating this active army of tomorrow. And I don't know if your product is similar or it is a product like this, but you can approach it similarly. So you can look at your customers at the moment. Okay, they are this in this age group, they live in this country. Where do I think they would prefer to be picked up or collected? So is it more, are they more on Instagram? Are they scrolling around on these forums a lot? What should I give them? I also have seen brands that created their own community. So they are not using one of these platforms that I've given. It's the easier. They've actually created their own, programmed an own forum or a marketplace on their website, where then people could message each other, or integrated the forum on the website. So all of these things, maybe that could be an opportunity for you and your company.
Thank you so much. We have actually more questions, but unfortunately the time is clicking. And however, Cordula, feel free, guys. We are going to share where they can find you, your social, LinkedIn, the groups, the communities that you are in, so people can ask you and learn more from you. So thank you everybody for being in this chat with us. It was lovely to have you all here. And Cordula, people are just amazed by your clarification of communities and your presentation. They are thanking you so much. I'm going to share Cordula's resources in the follow-up email of this session. And don't worry, I'm going to include everything she mentioned, where you can find her. So thank you so much. Thank you, Cordula.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.